The scenery outside reminds me of my pride, reminds me of my will. At the windowsill, I sit and see the grays, the children they all play and laugh amongst themselves. Somehow remind me of myself on the merry-go-round.
What's going on, YouTube? It's Trev. I'm kind of obsessed about this XRP thing. I made a video about it last night, and we were talking about, or I was talking about, how this court case, right, is not going to define once and for all what a security is or what a security is not. It is going to determine whether or not Ripple sold XRP as a security, which would have required them to register it with the SEC, and this is what the lawsuit is about, right? There's a couple different things that I've been thinking about with my very limited knowledge of legal stuff, right? And I want to talk about that, but so I also want to kind of expound on some of the thoughts that I had yesterday. Here's the thing: if Judge Torres, if she determines that Ripple did in fact need to register XRP as a security because they sold it as a security, right? Then she is kind of making a de facto determination that XRP is a security. Okay, you have to reach that determination before you can say it needed to be registered. But from the way I see it, that would be a determination for XRP, right? And possibly you can use that, or anybody can use that going forward, the SEC or whoever else, to say, okay, anything like XRP, anything, you know, really close to XRP in its functionality and its whatever, has already been determined in the court of law to need to register with the SEC. It has been determined it is a security, right? And so that would help with that definition a little bit by giving us a point of reference, right? But there still could be lawsuits. People still could, like if the SEC tried to sue, you know, or they're suing Binance or suing this one, that one, people could still try to argue and say, well, this is how we are different from XRP. And that determination might have been made for XRP, but it can't be made for us because we are different in this way. And okay, so it still does not give an absolute definition, a clear-cut, concise definition that can be used to determine what is or what is not a security, right? If she goes the other way and says Ripple did not need to register XRP as a security, it's kind of the same thing. We're getting a point of reference. Now, anything like XRP can say, well, in a court of law, we're just like XRP. We have the same functionality, the same purpose, the same, you know, whatever, right? And XRP in the court of law was determined not to be a security, and therefore we're not a security either. But that would not stop the SEC from saying, this is how you differ from XRP, and this is why we still think you're a security and why you have. So that would not stop future lawsuits from happening, right? Okay, so a little point of clarification, right? But here are the two things that I was obsessing about last night. There are a couple of kind of tenets or rules of thumb, I guess, when you're dealing with legal things, right? And this is why I'm kind of bouncing back and forth about what I think this determination might be, right? One, you've got and this is more in contract law, but I mean, it's really the closest comparison that I could find to what's going on here. It says basically that ambiguity in the law favors the party with the least bargaining power, right? Which is generally the defendant, right? So you might even say it as ambiguity in the law favors the defendant. It's not always the defendant, usually the defendant, right? So if there is a word, if there is a phrase, if there is something that can be interpreted more than one way in a rule or in a law, in a contract or whatever, that is ambiguity. And that ambiguity is generally going to favor the person with, or the party with the least bargaining power, right? The second tenet is ignorance of the law does not excuse the law. So what are we dealing with here, right? This is going to be what one of the things I believe that Judge Torres is going to have to determine, right? So look at it like this. So Ripple is saying that, listen, the laws and rules are not clear-cut as to what a security is. We've been asking for clarification. We have not got it, right? And, you know, they're pointing to this Hinman speech of 2018 where the former chair of the SEC said that Bitcoin and Ethereum are not securities, right? So they are saying there is ambiguity in the law. How does Judge Torres interpret that? Does she agree that it's the law itself that is ambiguous? Well, sometimes you can have a law that, you know, people like you and me and even people, you know, with a little more expertise, but are not necessarily legal professionals. They're not lawyers, they're not judges, whatever. When they read it, they might not totally understand it, right? It's written in legalese, and they could interpret it the wrong way. But if you have a legal professional, an attorney, a judge, or whatever, who reads the same law, they might totally understand it. They might say there's nothing ambiguous about it at all. This is clearly what it means to me. And yes, they're making an interpretation or a determination, but, you know, they're in the position that they can do that, right? So if Judge Torres looks at the rules and regulations that currently exist for determining what a security is, and she says, and she finds them to be clear and concise and not ambiguous, then we're not dealing with ambiguity in the law favors the defendant. We're dealing with ignorance of the law does not excuse the law. And she will determine against Ripple, right? Are you following me so far, right? Because even if the prior head of the SEC, who does not determine what the law is just supposed to, you know, uphold the law, right? Enforce the regulations. Even if he interpreted it wrong, that doesn't make a difference. That's still ignorance of the law. You know, the president themselves could interpret it a certain way, but even if they do that and they say it, and you go by what they say and they were wrong, it was found that they were wrong in a court of law, that's ignorance of the law, and you're not excused from that, right? If, however, she determines and she looks at it and she says, yeah, it's not clear and concise, and it's absolutely even more confusing when, you know, the former head of the SEC and the current head of the SEC kind of themselves can't determine what's going on here. If she looks at it that way, then that's ambiguity in the law, and that's going to favor Ripple. I'm finding this 50-50 at this point. You know, and I've actually stopped listening to other YouTubers, except maybe for Matthew Perry, because I'll be honest with you, it's not just because I like Matthew. He is being more impartial on this, right, than really anybody else that I've seen. Most of the other YouTubers that I've seen on this, either they want to tell their followers what they think their followers want to hear so they can get the clicks and earn the revenue, or it's just a confirmation bias thing. This is what they want to hear, and so this is what they're hearing, right? So I'm trying to figure it out for myself, because I think that I'm normally a pretty impartial guy. And for me, unless somebody can point out something that I've missed, and I haven't followed every single facet of this case, right? So there may be other variables that I'm unaware of. But from what I've seen so far, 50-50 at best. There's really nothing here to determine one way or the other, or to sway my opinion one way or the other as to what is going to be determined here in this case. I understand why it's taking so long, and I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to come of it. So I'm gonna keep digging into it, because I really am obsessed by this. I want this determination. I want to know going forward what to do. You know, I do have some money set aside that I would actually like to put into XRP or Elmo, or maybe even Lonk, or some different things, but this determination is really holding up a lot of people from jumping into the market. It really is. So I hope that we can get it. I hope that we get it soon. And at this point, I just want to get it. Even if it doesn't work in our favor, I just want to know. I want to know where we stand, right? And I think a lot of other people feel the same way. All right, that's it. If you have any comments about that, please leave them in my comment section. Let's talk about it. I'm enjoying the conversation and the discourse on this. But be careful who you watch and who you listen to. Do your own research, and take everything that everybody says with a grain of salt, even me, right? All right, I'll talk with y'all later. Ciao.